I'm Tony Regisford, and you're looking at Unrendered on IKTV. My guest is Mrs. Indera Sagewan-Alli. She's from the Caribbean Center for Competitiveness, a UWI institution. Indera, we're talking about you engaging the governments. How seriously do they take you anyway?
Well, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has taken me seriously. In fact, I am, when the process right now with the Ministry of Trade, sent proposal, we've been to and from, we finally have agreement. So the center is actually going to be doing some cluster mapping work for the Ministry of Trade in, for 5 particular areas that the government has identified as potential new growth sectors, those being fashion, film, music, maritime services, and food and beverage. And the outcome of that, this process will over 3 months, and what we will at the end of that process be able to tell the government, this is what exists with respect to these particular industries. This is its contribution to GDP, number of firms operating, number of people employed. These are the products that they are offering currently. This is the institutional arrangement that exists to support it. A scan of the international market, who are the competitors. We'll do something called a 5 forces to determine within each one of these which are the specific areas that we, at this point in time, have comparative and competitive advantage on the basis of which to go forward with further analysis. So I've had success in Trinidad and Tobago. I've had some amount of success, I would say, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
This is with the banana adjustment
Yes,
measures.
right. I have met, I was here, I think about maybe a month ago. I met with a range of stakeholders, from the Prime Minister to the farmer, and the support institution, both from donor perspective as well as Caribbean institutions that exist. So I walked the entire road in terms of meeting with people. Following that, the Minister of Agriculture asked me to send a formal proposal. Now, I did ask him to give me some more information on the BAM initiative so that I would send a directed proposal. In the absence of that, I have to tell you, your government is not very responsive on a timely basis. So in the absence of that, I submitted a proposal in terms of a very broad proposal. And I am here again, and maybe we can talk about why the center actually came in this instance to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because we brought an international workshop on the internationalization of SME, which is happening now, right now as we speak.
Right.
It's a 2-day workshop for SMEs. The Institute of Exports out of the UK is the facilitating agent, and we're doing it in collaboration with the Center for Enterprise Development. The center, CCFC, my center, is underwriting most of the costs, and CD has come in as a partner.
And so you're hoping through these workshops to do what?
Well, so yes, this particular workshop, and we will come back to the issue of the engagement with the government, right? But through this particular workshop, and so far, because I've done it in Trinidad and Tobago and in Antigua Barbuda and now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What I have found has come out of this workshop is that SMEs and support agencies to SMEs are confronted with the amount of work that is really required in order to move their companies from where it is producing for a small domestic market to, even if they want to expand their domestic market, much less if they want to go international and go into an export market. Really confronting the whole range of issues that they need to do. At the end of it, participants would develop a market entry plan for a particular product that they want to sell. So it's quite hands-on in terms of teaching and learning by doing. So at the end of it, they go back. I mean, it's 2 days, so we can't, Rome was not created in 2 days. So it's simply an introductory course. But it is an introductory course, I think. So
you're going to have a follow-up, I take it?
Well, it is follow-up in a different way. So I'm already conceptualizing the different model that I would like to use that really will be working more directly with SMEs to move them from where they are to a stronger growth position, but through a process of training and doing that will come with financing. And so it's something that I'm working out, a model that I now have to go and find the financial support in order to be able to offer, and to offer it sector by sector or industry by industry, because again, the center cannot be all to everyone in one go. So that is the follow-up to me out of this particular training. Some interesting things that have come out of this to me is that we do not value what we have. We don't value our history, our culture, our natural resources. We do not value it ourselves, and because of that, we underprice it. We underpresent it. We underbrand it. We undermarket it. And those are some very important things that we need to fix if we are to prepare our SMEs. SMEs, mind you, comprise over 90% of the firms in the region. So they are a very, very important segment that we must grow. But they have serious constraints, financing being one. I describe it right now as you have SMEs who are producing in their local market and doing, they're surviving.
Right.
But to grow, they're at the point where they're just hitting themselves against a brick wall, and they're hitting the brick wall and they're just bouncing back. Because to move, they don't know how to get past that brick wall. And really, the ticket through that brick wall is financial assistance to do branding, to do product development, to do market analysis, to do marketing. That is where the challenge lies, and they keep hitting that wall.
But what is out there in terms of securing financing?
There's very little that is out there.
Because you can't go to the commercial banks. That's not the commercial banks are not set up for, businesses that are just gestating like that. So where do you go? How do you not hit that brick wall?
Well, we have to define a model, and that's what I'm telling you. That is where my mind is going in terms of how can this, and I'll tell you, roughly what I'm thinking. We have some very large companies in the region that are doing tremendously well. They are exporting internationally. And they speak the whole issue of social corporate responsibility. But when they talk that, they really talk mostly about supporting a sports team or these kind, which are very noble, and I don't dismiss that. But if you look at Silicon Valley, for example, the way they measure success is the amount of ribbons they put up on their wall, and each ribbon represents a new company that they have supported, that they have spawned. So it's venture capitalism of a different nature. So I am thinking, why is it that CCFC cannot design a model that combines hands-on practical training? So you take a group of SMEs, let's take the pepper sauce industry, which I feel very strongly about, because when I go through the region, there are so many of them, right? So even if we start in one country, you bring them together and have a model where you understand where they are, identify what we need to do in order to grow them. And then we get the large companies to come in as providing the mentorship, and the financial support to be able to grow these companies. So we train, we put in some resources, we move it to the next level so we could see the results. Then we train again, we put in some financial resources, we take it to the next level. We need to stop thinking that the support must only come from abroad and through a donor agency. In the region, we have to start to find the solution, and we have to start to find ways ourselves to resource it.
I was going to make that comment about your own agency.
Oh, my finance, my source, my funding from the IDB is only seed funding. It ends, actually it's almost to an end.
Right.
It's almost to an end.
What happens after that?
Right. The way the center will continue, one is the university will maintain the center. My center, in terms of human capital within the center, is myself as the executive director, one secretary, one project officer.
Right.
I have 2 additional researchers who come through government's of Trinidad and Tobago OJT program. The government pays for them, and they work with me. But that's it.
Right.
The model that I have used is training people throughout the region. So these are resource people who have been trained in the tools, who do not work for the center but are available to the center. So if I come to St. Vincent, for example, the center has already trained a few people in St. Vincent who I will then use as the resource people to work on the ground and do the work. And that is the model that the center will continue to do. So it will always remain very lean in terms of its resources. And then the second way is really working with governments. I mean, the center is not a for-profit institution, but it has to survive. Yes. And therefore, what we will simply be doing is passing on the cost of doing the kind of work that we're doing onto the client. So that, for example, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the proposal that I would have sent, would have come with the necessary costing to bring the requisite skills on board in order to do the work. And that is how the center sees itself building itself out and maintaining itself. It will continue to look at maybe strategic opportunities. We're looking at developing, for example, a flagship executive program in competitiveness that we will offer maybe once a year, that senior executives can do, because you have to be realistic to the fact that if you're not making money, you cannot survive.
There's an old institution called the Caribbean Development Bank. And it seems to me as if the Caribbean Development Bank should be, and maybe they are, engaging in a way that the Center for Competitiveness is engaging. Is there any synergies? Are there any synergies
actually,
with
the synergy only recently established. I did a presentation in Barbados for the UN on the region's holisty of competitiveness in the region, and the vice president of the CDB was also there on a platform, and following my presentation, she has invited me to come to the CDB and make a presentation, to actually make that same presentation, but it also gives me an opportunity to talk about the center and talk about how the center can work with the CDB. And the center is working like that, networking with all the regional organizations. So for example, the CEDA, this is now CEDA, which is the Caribbean Export Development Agency, is another regional institution, again with resources, that is looking to support private sector development. And where the center, my center, comes in, is that we are developing the technical capacity to be able to support what they are doing, so that everybody have the niche, and when we pull it all together, I believe is where the synergies of
the comment I'll make though is that
it's a hard, long road though.
Not only that, the comment I'll make is that there seem to be quite a few agencies that are set up to do similar things, right? So you've got a lot of duplications, replications, etc. And perhaps that needs to be rationalized. Perhaps you need to consolidate and look and see exactly who's going to do what. If we talk about the efficiencies of LIAT and the inefficiencies of LIAT, as it were, we won't want to then have those same inefficiencies built into all these organizations that are attempting to correct the inefficiencies of something else.
I totally agree with you. That's why the first thing that I did was to identify the niche that another institution is not in fact filling. CDB doesn't fill the niche that the center is filling, in the sense that CDB is a bank. It has resources, garners resources, but then it goes out and it finds the consultants in order to do the work. The CCFC wants to be the consultant doing the work, building the knowledge base on Caribbean and regional competitiveness, building the database. We want to be, and we've started it, writing up the case studies of the successes with respect to Caribbean firm competitiveness. We are building out a firm-based competitiveness index to compete really with the global competitiveness index that is done right now by the World Economic Forum. Because what we are saying is that you cannot benchmark these our small little island states against Singapore and Switzerland, and then on the basis of us ranking somewhere 90 something, say, well, look at where you're ranking against Singapore. It's not a fair. So these are the things. So I'm very cognizant of that, and this is the niche. CED that I just spoke about, again, they have financial resources to provide. When they are looking for technical studies, they go out and get a consultant. The CCFC wants to be able to be the institution. Once we're talking about private sector competitiveness, the CCFC wants to be this regional center that is doing that kind of work, that kind of analysis. But not just the analysis. We want to work
and implementation. Yes. Indera, we're at the end of this segment, so we have one more when we come back. So we'll just continue our discussion when we come back from the break. This is Unrendered on IKTV. My guest is Mrs. Indera Sagewan-Alli. More when we come back.